Hi, welcome to Google Classroom tutorial. In today's session, we are going to get you all set up for the new school year. Now, what you are looking at right now on my screen is the Google Classroom homepage. You can access this page by going into your Google Suite grid and selecting Classroom, or simply typing in classroom.google.com. Now, here with the landing page is where all of your Google Classrooms will live, whether you are the teacher of the classroom or a student within that classroom. These tiles can be moved around so that it looks and feels exactly the way you want it to look and feel. Now, if you have an established classroom with documents that are fairly stable, you have the option to copy over an existing classroom, most likely from the previous year, and start with a much more robust structure than what it would be from starting from scratch. I happen to be a more type A teacher, and nothing is ever the same from year to year, for better or worse. So I typically start from scratch every year, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go ahead and select the plus sign in the upper right hand corner, and we're going to go ahead in real time create a class. You really want to think about your naming conventions. It makes it nice for you, and more importantly, it makes it nice for your students. There's nothing worse than opening up for a student to open up their homepage and just see tiles riddled with random information. And by that I mean no teacher name, no school year designation. It's just E block, C block, D block, and perhaps that student isn't all that great about archiving classes, and the classrooms just pile up year after year after year, which could be their reality. It's much nicer for them if your Google Classroom in some place has your name, the course name, the block, as well as the school year. So you can see my last year's American Literature course, my naming convention is my last name, Wilson, American Lit, it's all one word. The block, I taught it, E block, the school year, 2019-2020. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and name this a test, and the section will be the school year. The subject, I'll pretend this is for my American Literature course, and the room is TBD, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and hit create, which will generate an entirely new class for us to take a look at. All right, so the new class is launched automatically for you, and let's take a quick tour. At the top you have your banner where you can select a theme or upload a photo. You are able to ask students to join your classroom with a classroom code, which you can project in a larger format using that square. You also have the ability to generate a Meet link if you so desire. This would be a Meet link that's associated with this class only, and only members of this class would be able to access. It won't be visible for students unless you click Generate Meet Link. Now for the 2020-2021 school year at Westwood, we are purchasing the education platform for Zoom. So we are not using Meet as our primary platform this year. We are navigating over toward Zoom. Now, here you also have, so we're looking at your Stream tab. To the right is where all of the classwork will live when you are ready to create assignments. You'll notice at the top that the URLs do change, and so students are able to bookmark the Classwork tab if that's the primary landing place for them, so that they don't have to open Classroom to the stream and then toggle over to the Classwork. If you want to save them a click, you can give them that trick. The People tab will host all of your co-teachers and students that are a part of your class. And then there's the Grades tab. Now, here we're going to take a minute and look at the settings that are specific to this Google Classroom. Here are the class details we just filled out. You can further those details with a description. Here are your invite codes. Again, the way students are most familiar with joining is with a code. Right now it's enabled. You can always disable that code or reset the code. The class code again is here. The display of that code is here. This is just the same thing that we looked at the stream. But new this year, you also have the ability to send out an invite link. So I'm going to hit copy and I'll show you what this looks like. Going to invite a student to join Google Classroom. I'm going to go ahead and hit send, and I will show you what that looks like. This is the student I just invited to join Google Classroom with that new invite link. And thanks to my enabled undo send, it may take a few more seconds to appear in the inbox. There it is. All right, so the invite is here, and now here's the email I just sent, and this is student Robert Steele. When he clicks this invite link, this is what he will be met with: a personalized invitation to join the class. And once he has done that, he is now a full member of the class we just created. So let me go back over to the teacher view. And before we exit out of the class settings, I want to talk a minute about the stream. You can set the stream so that you are the only person that can post or comment. Perhaps you want to give students the ability to comment, or that you want to give the students the ability to post and comment. In the beginning of the year, until I know the students and I know what I want to use the stream for, I usually set it to I am the only one able to post and comment. Classwork on this stream, the default is to show condensed notifications, which means every time you post something in the Classwork tab, there'll be a notification in the stream tab for students. I find that to be confusing because then students aren't quite sure where to start when they're looking for work. So I prefer to hide notifications and leave the Classwork on the stream absent. I rather that if they're looking to complete assignments, they go over to the Classwork tab. If they're looking for an announcement, they are in the stream. Show deleted items, I keep off. Guardian summaries, I also keep off. At the high school level, I think Guardian summaries can be confusing for families. So I prefer to use Aspen's gradebook and keep it public so that if families are curious about student progress, that's where they go to check in and not the Guardian summaries. And again, right now, the Meet link is not visible to students. And I'll speak to this more later, but I don't use the grading capability for my academic classes in Classroom. I use the Aspen gradebook instead. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. All right. Now, if I head over to People, you'll see that I have, in fact, one student now as a member of this class. And as students are prompted to join the class, whether I send them the code or send them the invite link, they will start to populate here. Once you have your students populated, you'll see here, you'll have a few actions. You can always email them as a class. This is how I send emails, is through the People tab to my classes. At one point we were given class emails, and I no longer use those class emails. Rather, I just use this function. As students, maybe if they were to transfer out of your class, you are able to remove them if they don't remove themselves. And in all years, I think it's really important to invite co-teachers, especially teachers, members of the special education department, so that they have the ability to access and monitor and provide feedback on their students' work without having to request editing permissions from myself or the student. All right. Now, I'd like to give you a minute to show you my last year's academic class. This is my American Literature class from last year. I did use Google Meet, so you can see that there was a Meet link associated. It's not visible to the students right now, but I can turn it on and make it visible to the student in settings. You'll see here, I'm in the Stream tab, and only announcements live there. And so you can see the last day of school was on the 18th, and my agenda for the day was for them to click on 5.0 and join our Meet. So what does that mean? In the Classwork tab, I use a numbering system, and here 5.0 is where our classroom Meet link lived. We had this link set up and established prior to Classroom launching the designated Meet link with Classroom, if that makes sense. Now, back to the Stream conversation. Again, here you see only announcements. If I were to go into this class's settings and go into the Stream settings, right now I hide Classwork notifications on the Stream, but if I were to change that and go back to the default, which is show condensed notifications, and save it, you'll see how that impacts the information on the Stream. Okay, so here is something I posted also on June 18th to the Classwork tab that is now visible in the Stream. Right, and so here are, again, more Classwork posts available on the Stream. I find this to be redundant. I don't feel that it's necessary to have all of this information on the Stream in addition to the Classwork tab. So I'm going to go back into settings and hide Classwork notifications from the Stream. And if you look again, now it's cleaner. It's just my daily agenda so that students knew what we were going to be working on each day in the spring, last spring. The Classwork tab, you'll see, is organized by topics. There's a shortcut to all the topics. Navigation is on the left. Again, I use a numbering system to help point students in the right direction. There's a lot of content at times, and it's important that they're accessing the right documents. I also use the numbering system in my Aspen gradebook. So if perhaps their lost Loman analysis was incomplete, I would enter a 0 in Aspen. I would have a title that matched my Google Classroom title. I would associate it with 4.4, and that way students knew exactly what they were missing and where to access that document. Because in Classroom, not every single document will translate into a grade in Aspen. And so I want to make sure I'm as clear as possible to my students how to access the work that needs to be accessed. You'll see different icons in the Classwork tab. The materials icon is just that. It's just a material. It's, in this case, a link that all the students are asked to access. It doesn't generate a ticker of who has completed it and who hasn't. It's just essentially an electronic version of a handout. Here is an assignment. This is a PDF of the play we read together, Death of a Salesman. And I used the assignment description area to track what we read each day. This was information not just for my students, but for myself as well. It helped keep me on track of what we did every day. The view assignment is also a function you want to make sure that students click on, because that's what will give them the full amount of details. On the top, you'll see as a teacher, you have the instructions. This is what you've asked students to complete. You can edit those instructions. You can provide a direct link to these instructions. And then the student work is where you can monitor. You can look at all work, turned in work, assigned work, graded work. There's different filters depending on how you've assigned something. So I'm going to go back over to the Classwork tab. And I know there's been a few people that have asked about Google Classroom and a file cabinet capability. And the closest I have come to a file cabinet would be a topic that would be comprised only of material assignments, as opposed to a combination of material assignments, regular assignments, and perhaps questions. Now, I did try this out here. This would be, I guess, my version of a file cabinet. If I scroll down to my year-long resources topic, these would all be things that were applicable all year long for my students. This I could see for some content areas being, very robust and lengthy. And I'm not the biggest fan of the view when it comes to if I access the topic this way. I'm not a big fan of this view for whatever reason. That's just me. But I would say another option for a file cabinet would be to have a topic. And let me go over here. I'm going to go to our test classroom. And what I would do is I would first create a folder in Drive. And for me, I would call it AMLET Resources. Okay. I'd open up that folder and check its access permissions. I'm going to go ahead to share And I'm going to, I know things are a little bit new here. I want anyone with the link to be able to view the content of the folder. So I'm going to go ahead and hit, and before I do that, I'm going to copy the folder link. I'm going to hit done. And I will create a topic with probably the same name. I'm going to create a materials assignment. I'm going to add the link to that folder. Because if I'm not mistaken, I'm just going to try it here as well. I don't believe I can link an entire folder from Google Drive. I believe it has to be an individual document. Yeah, see, there's no folder options. It would be just, if I clicked, I'm going to just click that and see. Yeah, I think it doesn't seem, yeah. So when I click a folder, I don't get the insert option the way I did with the file option. Yeah. So I think the linking to the folder I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm posting to the right classroom, all my students, all one. I'm going to put it under the topic of American Lit year-long resources. But if I forget to do that, let me just show you what can happen. Right, so I forgot to identify the topic. I'm just going to drag it down and assign it the topic. So here it is. So I think for those of you looking for that file cabinet option, that's going to be what you want to do. And let me show you what that looks like from the student view. And actually, I'm going to put a test document in there for now. And go back to my student view. Go ahead and update. So you can see now Robert Steele has a year-long resource topic, American Lit resources, file cabinet. He can open the folder. And access the document. So I think that's probably the cleanest, most efficient way to create a file cabinet if that's something you're looking for. All right. Thank you for bearing with me during that digression. So back over to my American Literature classroom. Whatever your work, again, another, best practice is whatever you're working on, make sure that it's at the very top. Students and teachers alike do not like to scroll down, which unfortunately is the way things are posted. you want to keep things at the top that are most relevant. And so right now, if any of my last year students are accessing their American Lit classroom, it's for the purpose of their college essay, and that's why the two writing assignments they wrote last year that they could potentially use as a starting spot for their college essay is at the top. If I wanted transcendentalism to be at the top, I can move the entire topic and all the documents associated with that topic. I can move it up, or I can move it down. Same goes for individual assignments. Assignments can be moved, in this case, because it's at the top already, down or up. You can also drag and drop. Things can be moved around that way as well. Now let's take a look at the People tab. Here you will see that I am the primary teacher and I have many co-teachers. I have special education teachers, my department chair, and my admin team. And when an administrator is invited into your classroom, they don't necessarily have to accept the invitation unless they need to. They can just leave that invitation kind of just in limbo until it's needed. Now here are all my students. And again, I can email my entire class. And when you do that, it generates an email. Everyone is in the BCC bracket of the Gmail, right? And after you send your email, it will be part of your sent folder in Google Classroom. You'll see that some students have guardians invited, some students don't. And again, for me, I've turned off the guardian summary, so I choose not to utilize that function. And then let's take a look at, actually, I'm gonna take a hard pause on the grades for a moment. I'm going to now show you a different Google Classroom. This is a classroom for a professional development course that Greg Schwanbeck and I are teaching this year. And we, for this course, do actually use the grades function because these are not my students. I don't have an Aspen gradebook associated with it, but I am monitoring, monitoring completion of assignments. And so in this case, again, if you look at our stream, it's only announcements. Here, and this is true for all classrooms, you have a upcoming window. Now, in my last year's American Lit, no work is due soon because the year has ended and the most recent assignment due date was June 11th. However, with this professional development course, all the assignments that are part of this course are due this Friday. So when I look at the upcoming here, you'll see the list of assignments that are all hyperlinks. It will bring you right to that assignment that are due. I'm going to go ahead and click View All, and you'll see an entire list of the assignments. You can see the assignment name, how many people have turned it in, how many are outstanding, and how many have been graded. So if we go back towards the first assignment, 1A, You can see since I last looked at this, 2 new assignments have been turned in, 12 are still outstanding, and 24 have been graded and returned. And again, as the instructor, I can click this assignment and it will bring me now to those 2 new assignments that have been turned in. Woohoo! And I can take a look at not only what they've submitted, but also in this case, their profile picture that's now nicely associated with their Google profile. I can say, that's a great job, Ms. Flanagan. And here. And then I can go ahead and hit return. And now if I go back over to the home page, and now that I look at view all, my ticker will tell me that everything so far for that assignment at least has been graded. And again, this is the teacher view, and every teacher has this view with the Google Classroom that they've created. And this also is a nice reminder to really make use of the assignment details. The more detailed you can be in your assignment creation with regards to due dates, the more information you have as the teacher to monitor progress, as well as the students have to monitor their progress. Now, here I can look at just this course, the Digital Citizen, or I can look at all my courses together, or I can toggle now to, one of my American Lit assignments. As a student, if I go back over to Robert Steele's view, if I go to his stream, you can see he has no work upcoming. He's also able to view his work here. This will create a nice list of assignments for him, things that have been assigned, returned, or are missing. He's also able to access his class drive folder that will house all of the work he completes for this course. That's a nice segue into the reminder that Google Classroom is a skin for Google Drive. Once you create a classroom, you are automatically created a Drive folder. So here you can see I have a classroom folder. I did not create the classroom folder. Google Classroom created that folder for me, and it will be found in your Drive. I placed it in an apps folder. I did that. In your classroom folder will list all of the classes you've ever taught. And within that classroom folder, if I take a look at my last year's American Literature classroom, perhaps, sorry for the scrolling, if I can find it. Oh, sorry, I moved it out. Let me go to the Digital Citizen. There it is. Okay, so this is the PD course. And for every assignment that was assigned, there's a folder. And so we just looked at the profile pictures, 1A, and within 1A, you'll see all of the assignment submissions by my students. the last thing with Google Classroom, in addition to reviewing assignments, will be if you want to use Classroom in any way as a way to grade, the Grades tab, I want to show you what this looks like in a classroom where we are using the grades functionality. For the PD course, every assignment was 1 point. And so either they did it, which means they get a 1 out of 1. They didn't do it meeting the standards, so it's a 0 out of 1, but always the ability to get a 1 out of 1 with a resubmission, or it's not yet graded. So if I go back to the first assignment and I start scrolling, you'll see lots of 1 out of 1s and lots of empty boxes. So some empty boxes will be just assignments that haven't been submitted or graded yet. And then I'm able to track who has completed what. And again, all of these are all hyperlinks, so I can zoom in on a specific teacher in the work that they've completed for the course specifically. For my academic content area, I don't utilize the grade book function of Google Classroom because for a few reasons. I use the Aspen gradebook exclusively because that is the way in which we communicate to families regarding progress. And I also communicate grades on the actual assignments that are submitted. So the Google document that is completed has a grade, usually a rubric associated with it. So I find it redundant in my world to put a grade on a document, put a grade in Aspen Gradebook, and put a grade in Google Classroom. And furthermore, because students will eventually archive your classroom, they will never return and look at a grade in Google Classroom or any feedback for that matter that you provide in Google Classroom in the common features associated with an assignment. But they may revisit a document for a future use. And so comments that are left on a Google document will live forever for that student in a way that comments or grades within a Google Classroom just don't. To wrap this up, we're back to the home page, and you'll see that the test classroom that we just created has one student. I'm starting to think about my own students for this upcoming school year, so I have no students yet, but I'm starting to frame out, my first few assignments. And for the PD course that's starting to wrap up, because assignments have deadlines, due dates associated with them, the bird's eye view gives students that ability. So if you can imagine what this might look like for a student who has lots of Google Classrooms, it's so nice for them to know, what's upcoming for them with a deadline. And again, the deadlines are only possible if you're assigning work through the Classwork tab here. Any assignments assigned through the stream do not get the advantages that assignments get with the Classwork tab. So I'm going to leave you here. I hope you have found this helpful, and there will be more forthcoming regarding the student experience with Classroom. I'm hoping that you'll join me at a later time to experience all the different ways you can ask students to engage in your course content through Google Classroom. Thanks for watching.